Hey all, welcome to Slay the Spire. Today we're playing Ascension 13 with the Silent. So since the Silent is not very strong, I tried really hard to avoid elites. I actually go for the option to get 3 1 HP fights. If I didn't have a fight for the first 2 question marks, then I would perfect an elite. Now at the first shop I picked up a footwork, since a dex and poison deck is probably the easiest way to win with the Silent. So I got really lucky. The first question mark was a curse and gold, and the second question mark was a card removal. So I was able to actually hit the elite with only 1 HP. I also picked up an all-out attack and was able to upgrade that very quickly. In the next shop, Snecko Head was on sale. I decided to take it and really lean into a poison deck. And then I also took a dodge and roll for extra defense, especially since I already have a footwork. After sniping that elite with only 1 HP, I was able to pick up Crippling Cloud, which is another great AoE poison and weakness card. The relics I had so far were not amazing, except for the Snecko Skull obviously. We had Ancient Tea Set, which gives you extra energy after rest. Warpaint, which upgrades 2 random skills, which in my case were just 2 random defense. And the relic that gives us 25% more gold. I did have to take a curse for that last relic. After the next fight, I got my first Noxious Fumes. Noxious Fumes deals 2 poison each turn, and it upgrades to 3 each turn. And then with Snecko Skull, it'll be 4 poison per turn for every enemy. A really powerful card for the Silent. I was able to upgrade that Noxious Fumes as well. So now we just needed to make sure that we can defend while the poison takes its effect. I should also say that I am speeding up certain parts more than others. That's because I was very distracted during this run. I had tried a lot of Ascensions with the Silent, and I wasn't doing well with most of them. The Silent, in my opinion, is the hardest character to do the Ascensions on. Since the Silent already has the lowest max HP from all characters, it is very hard, especially on the 3rd floor when some of the elites deal very large amounts of damage. After the next fight, I got offered an Envenom, which really just want to make me lean into that poison build. One of the few actual elites I fought, and I'm not counting the Lagavulin since that enemy only had 1 HP, was the Sentries. I thought since I had some nice AoE in terms of the Noxious Fumes, the Crippling Cloud, as well as the all-out attack, I should be fine, and I think in the end that was the case. We also got Meat on the Bone, which is really good for the Silent. Every time your HP is below 50%, you'll heal 14 HP back, which is really good. I also picked up a Deflect, and I upgraded an Envenom before the boss fight. The boss fight was against the Hexa Ghost. So our deck had a lot of weakness in forms of the Neutralize and the Crippling Cloud, and I also drank a Liquid Bronze that I had. And yeah, the rest of combat, I was just defending and dealing some attacks. Took some damage in the end, but I was able to kill before the second large attack. The poison helped out a lot too, and I with 34 poison on him. The card rewards I got from the Hexagos were not that great. Grand Finale was useless. Nightmare was expensive and only useful if I had something like Catalyst. And Afterimage was only useful if I had enough cards to play, which was definitely not the case. I didn't pick up any of those. And then the card rewards were useless as well. So we had White Beast Statue, which is not really that good in High Ascension since you only have 2 potion slots. We had Hovering Kite, which requires you to have a lot of card draw to be able to actually discard cards. So I had to take Tiny House. Now Tiny House also gives you another card choice. So not only did I get my footwork upgraded, I also got another footwork. I also took Smoke Bombs for security. Smoke Bomb allows you to escape any non-boss fight. And I thought maybe we have to fight an elite and we have to escape, so it's a good potion to have. So the second floor was a little tough with only 3 energy, but I think we managed fine. I also took Poison Stab to be able to apply some more poison. And there's another Noxious Fumes in the shop, so I had to take it. There's also Mummified Hand, which makes another card cost 0 if you play a power card. And since we already had 2 footworks and 2 Noxious Fumes, I thought that would be a good idea. At the next question mark, I got the Gamble. This one is a little hard. I usually try to avoid it, since it might give you something that's really poor and ruins the rest of the run. The worst relic it can give you is the relic that makes you weak at the beginning of each combat. But since we weren't really relying too much on strength, that would not have been a big problem. I actually got lucky and got Face of Cleric, which increases your max HP with every floor you climb. Actually, no, every combat you fight. So it was a small benefit. My biggest problems were fights like these, where the enemy is attacking every turn and I have to debate whether I want to defend or apply my powers. But in the end, I didn't end up losing too much HP here. And at the end of that fight, I took Backstab. just because it is an innate card and we are lacking energy. So having some good offensive capabilities at the beginning of the turn didn't seem like a bad idea. At the next event, I was offered apparitions and I rejected them. The reason for that is that, as I mentioned before, the Silent has a big problem with max HP. And I'm not confident in the ability to play this game with half of the max HP that I currently have. It would put us down to 38, which I think was just too low. So next I upgraded footwork. So now I had 2 upgraded footworks, which would give us 6 dex once played. The next shop I got backflip. With 6 extra dex, any sort of defensive card becomes really good. And after that, I got another relic, the Bag of Preparation, which is really good. It allows us to have 7 cards in our opening hand. I did have to take a curse for that, though. Afterwards, we also got Oddly Smooth Stone, which gives us 1 extra dex at the beginning of each combat, bringing our total dex up to 7 once the footworks are played. So the next fight kind of shows the biggest problem of our deck. It takes us a little bit to set up, so in the first couple turns, it's very hard to avoid damage. But once we have all of our footworks out and our Noxious Fumes, it's really not that difficult. Should also mention that I did have Piercing Well, which did help us out quite a bit. Next I took Cloak and Dagger, which is a really good card because we have the Dex as well as the Envenom. So not only will it give us a good amount of defense, it will also apply some poison with the attacks. At the next event I rejected taking the Ritual Dagger. Again, most of our damage comes from poison, so we really just want to focus on defensive cards rather than any sort of offensive cards. I should say this is sort of the secret for the Silent. The best deck that can beat the game in high Ascensions is that sort of defend and poison deck. Now that's not to say that other decks won't be able to do it, it's just this is probably the easiest one. And especially if we get cards offered that really lean into that sort of deck, we kind of have to do it. So next I was offered Bane, and I thought hard about that. In the end I decided to reject it. And again, the reason is because I wanted to focus more on defensive capabilities. It is very likely that all enemies will have poison at some point, so Bane would have dealt 14 damage, and then potentially also applied 2 extra poison with the Envenom. But ultimately, 14 in the grand scheme of things is not that much, and I think I should focus more on defensive cards, so that I can survive while the poison builds up. The fight against Neko, I got really lucky with our draws. We had the right amount of 0-cost cards, which allowed us to not take too much damage there. We also got a Leg Sweep and upgrade that as soon as possible. Leg Sweep is one of those great defensive cards which apply weakness and gives you block. The second floor boss was the Collector. So because of Oddly Smooth Stone, I start off with 1 dex. And then thanks to the footworks, I bring it up to 7 in a bit. And I also was able to get out 1 of the Noxious Fumes and the Envenom. Alright, there's the second Noxious Fumes and the second footwork. At this point I have 7 dex, which makes defending relatively easy. Even when I'm frail, I'm still able to defend by 9 with a Cloak and Dagger. I was able to defend fully against the big attack, even though I was vulnerable too. The enemy was weakened as well, though. I drank the Swift Potion at one of those turns there, because I was worried about taking too much damage. I was able to defend, mostly, but I was afraid if I take too much damage, I might die in another turn, so I didn't want to risk it. But I think that was the only problematic turn. The rest of the fight I was able to defend fairly well, and was able to apply enough poison to kill. Unfortunately, again, none of the cards were that great. We got Nightmare again, which again would have been amazing if we had a Catalyst, but we hadn't seen a single Catalyst yet, so I didn't take it. We also got Glass Knife, which was not that amazing, and Doppelganger, which again, not that great for this type of deck. We were offered only 1 energy relic after that fight, which was Sozu, which means that we would get 4 energy, but we wouldn't be able to pick up any new potions. We definitely needed the energy though, so I went ahead and took that. So on the 3rd floor I tried really hard to avoid elites. Even more so than on the 2nd. At this point my deck was pretty much set. I was just playing the footworks, the Noxious Fumes, and then just dealing some damage and poison. I should say that our opening hand, because it has 9 cards, is much stronger than the rest. The other hands we only draw 5 cards, and we still have a few curses in our deck. After the first 3rd floor fight, I picked up Expertise. My thinking was that it would offset the Mummified Hand. Mummified Hand makes other cards cost 0. So right now we have 4 energy, the ability to play powers and get 0 cost cards out of it, and no real card draw. Backflip and expertise would be good ways to actually draw more cards. For the same reason, after the next fight I took Quick Slash, which allows you to draw more cards, which I think was very necessary. I do want to point out that I was able to get over 40 block in a lot of the turns. So we were pretty good in the block department. At the next shop, I took Finesse. Because we have so much dex, Finesse is a very nice 0 cost defensive card as well as card draw. And then I also removed the Shame Curse, which is constantly making us vulnerable. I didn't want to deal with that. The transient fight with the Silent is very difficult if you don't have poison, since you have to deal a lot of damage in very short time. Luckily, by the second turn, I had already applied 22 poison, meaning that before the damage was calculated, the 22 was subtracted from the damage, which allowed me to not take any damage for the first 2 turns. The third turn, I was attacked, but I had enough block, so I didn't actually take any damage. By the 4th turn, the poison was up to 46, and by the 5th turn, it was up to 53. Note that in Ascension 13, normal enemies do not yet have more challenging movesets, so we only have 5 turns of the Transient, as opposed to the 6 turns that we have after Ascension 17. After the fight, I got Blur, which is a really good card for us, especially in those turns where we can accumulate a lot of block. At the next shop, I removed the other curse I had in my deck, and took Quick Slash. I was really feeling that we needed more card draw, so I wanted to make sure that we have enough abilities to draw cards. Next, I upgraded Noxious Fumes, giving us 2 upgraded Footworks and 2 upgraded Noxious Fumes. Yeah, in the next fight against the Maw, you can really see how useful Blur is. We got a lot of block in our first turn, and we're able to keep that for the second turn. And by turn 4, we already had over 40 poison. We just needed to defend and wait until the poison took its effect. Okay. I got my third Noxious Fumes after that fight, and then I had to take an Elite. I believe there's no path with no Elites. I had to take one Elite. But luckily, because I had some good AoE cards like Noxious Fumes and All Out Attack, the minions were not a big problem. And because I had some good defense, the Reptomancer wasn't a big problem. So yeah, the first turn I was able to kill both minions. Second turn I had Piercing Wail, which allowed me to not take too much damage. And then third turn I was able to get 7 decks out, and I was able to fully defend. And then turn after that I got all of my Noxious Fumes out. And then there was another turn of defending, and after that the enemy died from the poison. I got the potion belt, which was hilarious since I had Sozu, meaning I couldn't pick up any new potions. After that I got Mawbang. The next event I fought the first floor boss. In my case this was the Guardian. With the amount of poison and dex we had, this was not really a big problem. Yeah, with cards like Blur, this fight was very easy. Yeah, we ended up killing with 58 poison. We got Incense Burner, which is really good. Incense Burner makes you intangible in turn 6. At the next event, I picked up Discovery, which I was hoping would give us something like Catalyst. And turn after, I had to lose 1 card, and I definitely didn't want to lose the Blur or the Noxious Fume, so I got rid of Neutralize. Next, I felt a little cocky. Since I took on the Reptomancer, I thought that maybe I can take on the next Elite as well. And I thought I should be able to do it fine, but then I realized that it would have been very hard to kill in 5 turns. Our poison is slow acting, so it would have probably taken us 5 turns to actually set up, and then it would take us a little longer to actually kill. So I was afraid that I was going to lose too much damage. So in the first turn, when I noticed that I couldn't fully defend, I thought I'll just use the Smoke Bomb and escape this one. Last fight before the boss, I got the jaw worms. These are very dangerous since they gain strength very quickly. But the good thing is that they don't have too much HP. I did take some damage, but the poison was able to kill fairly quickly. I didn't pick up any cards after that, and before the final fight, I upgraded the Noxious Fumes. So my final boss was Dono and Deka. Discovery gave us a few options, but I picked up Riddle Withholds. Riddle Withholds was going to be very useful since I already had the Envenom out. It would apply poison with every hit, so it would apply poison 5 times. Not only would it apply 1 poison, it would apply 2 poison thanks to Snecko Head. So that Riddle Withholds allowed me to get rid of the artifact for Dono. Generally, it's recommended to kill Dono first, since Dono gives strength to both of them. If you kill Deco first, Dono is going to grow stronger with each turn. But if you kill Dono first, then Deco will stay at the same strength. So in turn 2, I drank the Power Potion, which gave me Footwork, which I thought would be really funny to take. At this point, I want to point out I had 3 Footworks in my deck, as well as 3 Noxious Fumes. By turn 3, I did take a bunch of damage, but I was able to get 3 Noxious Fumes out. So I was able to deal 9 poison to each enemy every turn. Actually 10 poison thanks to Snakehead. So from now on, I think I was applying enough poison, and it was just a waiting game. I needed to defend enough to survive. So at this point I had 9 decks too, which made the defending much easier. One of the turns when I admittedly did not have enough defense, I did get the Incense Burner active, so I didn't take any damage. And the turn after that, Dono died. Yeah, at this point I was adding 9 more poison each turn, and so it's just a waiting game. But yeah. That was the Ascension 13 victory with the Silent. It's a very traditional poison and dex deck, but I'm very glad it worked out. There were a lot of attempts before that failed, so I'm very happy this one succeeded. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.